They say not all sins come crashing in with noise and fire. Some sneak in, soft as breath, smooth as charm, silent as a glance that lingers just 1 second too long. I didn't see it coming. No warning, no thunderclap. Just laughter. That kind of laughter that fills a room, warms your chest, makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, you're still alive in the places you thought were dead. It started so small. A joke. A clink of glasses. The hum of the TV in the background. My husband asleep on the couch. His friends, still awake. I should have gone to bed. I should have closed the door. But I didn't. And now? Now I can't hear laughter without tasting metal in my mouth. I can't sit in that living room without feeling like I'm being watched by ghosts. I flinch at silence. I tremble at memories. Because what happened that night didn't just change my life. It shattered the version of myself I thought I knew. And left me, someone else. 3 years. 3 long, heavy, aching years. And I still ask myself the same question, over and over like a prayer that never gets answered. Who was I that night? And why didn't I stop them? Maybe you've done something you can't take back either. Maybe you've crossed a line you never thought you'd even look at. Or maybe you just want to understand how it could ever happen. Either way, you're here now. And so am I. So, if you've ever carried a secret so heavy it bent your spine. If you've ever stared at your reflection and wondered how you got there, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. This story might just whisper your name. I used to be full of life. The kind of woman who danced in the kitchen, who laughed without needing a reason. But somewhere along the way, I became background noise. A quiet hum in a house that looked perfect, but felt hollow. We live in a beautiful home. Marble countertops. Tall windows. Everything always in its place. But no one tells you how loud clean silence can be. How cold a house can feel when love doesn't live there anymore. My husband. He's present, but never really here. His eyes stay on his phone. His heart stays at work. And when he touches me, it feels like routine. Like checking something off a list. We don't fight. We don't talk much either. We just exist. Side by side. Like furniture that forgot it once had a purpose. Then there were his friends. Derek was the smooth one. Charming. Funny. The kind of man who always knew what to say, especially when no one else was saying it. He always complimented my cooking. Always made sure to tell me I looked good, especially when my husband didn't notice. Malik was different. Gentle. Protective. The one who offered to help with groceries, with repairs, with anything that gave him a reason to be near. And then Jonah. Quiet. Rarely said a word. But his eyes. They saw too much. Held their gaze too long. Made me feel uncovered. They came around often. Game nights. Weekend drinks. Always loud. Always laughing. I smiled. I served. I sat with them. But I was invisible. Not to them, though. No. To them. I was something else. And maybe that's why everything unfolded the way it did. Because in that house full of glass and silence, being seen again felt like oxygen. And I had been holding my breath for far too long. It was just supposed to be a casual night. Pizza, drinks, a little music, and the usual banter. My husband invited the guys over, Derek, Malik, and Jonah. I didn't think much of it. He said it would be quick. Just some laughs. Nothing heavy. I threw on something simple. A loose dress. Nothing too tight. Nothing too revealing. Just comfortable. I didn't even wear makeup. Didn't think they'd notice. But they did. The moment I walked into the room, I felt it. Eyes that lingered a second longer than polite. The pause before one of them smiled. The shift in energy, subtle, but thick. We all sat around the living room. Laughter bounced off the walls. The drinks kept coming. My husband was in high spirits, more animated than I'd seen him in weeks. And I watched him. Watched how easily he connected with them. How his eyes lit up for their jokes, but barely flickered when he looked at me. Then he started to fade. One drink too many. He stretched out on the couch with a lazy grin, and within minutes he was out, snoring softly beneath the hum of background music. I stood up and began clearing the table. Empty glasses, greasy plates, crumpled napkins. It wasn't even my mess, but I cleaned it anyway. Like always. That's when Derek stood up. "I'll help," he said, his voice smooth like velvet. He didn't wait for me to answer, he just followed me into the kitchen. Malik stayed on the couch. Said he was finishing his drink. Jonah sat quietly in the corner, watching. Derek leaned against the counter, watching me move. Not talking much. Just watching. I remember reaching for the sponge. And I remember the silence. It wasn't awkward, it was charged. Like something unsaid had taken up all the air in the room. I looked up and met his eyes. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't what he said. It was how he looked at me. Like I wasn't his friend's wife. Like I wasn't off limits. Like I was something else entirely. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Not embarrassment. Not fear. Just awareness. Of myself. Of my body. Of his eyes. Malik came in next. Brought his glass to the sink. Said something about how good women are rare these days. And Jonah? Still silent. Still watching. I should have gone to bed. I should have left them all there. Closed the door, washed my face, and let sleep carry me far away. But I didn't. That night stayed with me. Long after they left. Long after I crawled into bed beside my husband, who never even stirred. Their laughter echoed in my head, but it wasn't the sound that haunted me. It was the feeling it left behind. I laid there in the dark, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling like it could answer the questions I didn't want to ask. Was I just lonely? Or had I become someone I swore I'd never be? I remembered the way Derek smiled in the kitchen, how Malik brushed my hand when he passed me the glass, how Jonah didn't say a word but saw everything. I told myself it was harmless. I wasn't cheating. I didn't kiss anyone. I didn't touch anyone, not really. I was just talking, just laughing, just breathing in a room where I didn't feel invisible. Is that so wrong? But deep down I knew. I felt it in the pit of my stomach, tight, uneasy. I started thinking about my vows, the promises I made, how I stood in front of friends and family and swore to love only one man, to be faithful, to honor, to protect. Those words used to mean everything to me. Now, they felt like lines from an old book I used to love but hadn't read in years. Something distant. Something beautiful, but no longer mine. I tried to shake it off. Told myself I was tired. Told myself I'd imagined the way they looked at me. Told myself I was just desperate for attention. That I'd never let anything actually happen. But that didn't stop me from replaying every glance, every smile, every pause. I started checking my phone more, wondering if Derek might text. I thought about what I'd say if he did. I thought about what I'd do if he didn't. My husband never noticed. Never asked why I was quiet. Never looked at me the way they did. Never wondered why I sat at the table long after everyone had finished eating, just to be near the air they left behind. And that's when the guilt really started to set in. Because it wasn't about them. It was about me. I was changing. Bit by bit. Thought by thought. Moment by moment. And if I had stopped it then, if I had drawn the line and walked away, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here now confessing all this. To you. To myself. To whatever piece of me still wants to be good. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It was little things barely noticeable at first, easy to dismiss, easy to excuse. Malik offered to fix the loose cabinet door in the kitchen. Said it was nothing. Said he had the tools in his truck. He didn't ask for anything in return. Just smiled that warm, safe smile and stayed a little longer than he needed to. He came back a week later to check the faucet. Then the light in the hallway. And then the squeaky hinge on the bathroom door. I started wondering if he was finding things that weren't broken. Derek was different. More playful. He started sending me texts. Nothing big at first, just funny memes, little jokes about things we'd said on game night. Inside jokes that no one else would get. I'd laugh, and then feel the laugh stick in my throat. Because I knew what I was doing. And I kept doing it anyway. Jonah, he never said much. But I started noticing him more. He'd drop by unexpectedly. Said he was in the neighborhood. Said he thought he left something at our place. But he never seemed to look for anything. Just stood there. Quiet. Still. Watching. And I let him in. Every time. It wasn't about sex. Not yet. It was something deeper. Something slower. The way they looked at me like I mattered. Like I was more than someone's wife. We started talking more. Me and Malik. Me and Derek. Even Jonah, in his own silent way. We shared things. Little things. Secrets I hadn't even told my husband. Things I missed. Things I longed for. Things I didn't even realize I'd buried until someone finally asked. And with every word, every text, every visit, the space between just friends and something more got smaller. There's a look a man gives when he knows a line is about to be crossed. Not when he thinks, when he knows. I saw that look 3 times. 3 different faces. 3 different moments. And still, I let it all unfold. Then one night, they came together. It was a Thursday. My husband was out of town, another business trip, another hotel room, another evening where I'd sleep beside an empty pillow and pretend it didn't matter. He barely called anymore when he traveled. A quick text here and there. Landed safe. Long day, talk later. And I'd lie in bed, staring at his side of the mattress, wondering how we got so far apart while sleeping inches away. That night, I wasn't planning anything. At least, that's what I told myself. I texted Derek. Just him. Told him I made too much food. Said he could swing by, grab a plate. No big deal. He said sure. Said he'd be there in 20. Said, want me to bring the others? I should have said no. I should have said it was a quiet night. Said I wasn't feeling well. Said anything. But I said, sure. Why not? Why not? That phrase still haunts me. When the doorbell rang, my heart jumped. Not from fear, from something else. I opened the door. All 3 of them stood there. Derek, Malik, Jonah, smiling, relaxed, like nothing had changed, like everything hadn't already begun to shift beneath our feet. I should have shut the door, but I didn't. The night felt warm, too warm. The room too full. The air thick with something unspoken. We sat. We drank. We laughed. But it wasn't the same. The space between glances had changed. The words carried more weight. The silence in between said too much. Derek sat closer than he needed to. Malik brushed my knee with his hand, pretended it was an accident. Jonah barely looked away. There was a moment, one small moment, where I could have stopped it. Could have stood up. Could have said, you should all go. Could have remembered the woman I used to be. But I didn't. I let it happen. And I'm not proud of what came next. I won't tell you every detail. That part doesn't matter as much as you think. What matters is the feeling. The unraveling. The way my heart raced. Not from fear, but from a hunger I hadn't felt in years. I felt seen. Touched. Wanted. I felt alive. And then came the guilt. It didn't wait until morning. It came crashing in the second the room went quiet. We crossed every line. Every vow. Every silent promise we thought still meant something. And in the silence that followed, I heard my heart breaking. Then my phone lit up. It was my husband. Calling. The next morning felt like waking up underwater. Everything was slow. Muffled. Too still. I moved through the house like I didn't belong in it anymore. Like every wall had seen something it wasn't supposed to. Like the floorboards were whispering under my feet. No one said much. Derek left first, said he had errands. Didn't meet my eyes. Didn't smile. Just slipped out the door like he hadn't been a part of what happened. Malik stayed behind for a moment, helped me gather the empty glasses, told me I looked tired, touched my shoulder, too gently. Then he was gone too. And Jonah. He didn't speak, didn't move fast, just stood by the door, looked at me one last time, eyes calm, unreadable, like he knew something about me I didn't want to know about myself. And then he left. I stood there alone, in the same room, but everything felt different, like I'd stepped outside of myself and couldn't get back in. Later that day, Derek texted me, sent a meme, something silly, something that tried to act like nothing happened. Malik sent a message 2 days later. Asked if I needed anything fixed. I never replied. Jonah never contacted me at all. And then my husband came home. He walked in with his suitcase, tired eyes, and that familiar sigh. The sound he always made when he stepped through the door. Like the weight of the world had finally been set down. He hugged me. And I almost collapsed. Not from love. From shame. His arms felt foreign. His smell turned my stomach. Not because of him, but because of what I'd done. I nodded through his stories. Smiled when I had to. Laughed in the right places. But inside, I was screaming. I couldn't look at him without hearing them, without seeing hands, mouths, eyes, without feeling the weight of a night I couldn't take back. The house became louder in its silence. And I became quieter in mine. I started crying when I washed dishes. Couldn't explain why. The sound of running water just broke something open in me. I avoided mirrors. Didn't want to see what I'd become. Didn't want to meet the eyes of a woman I no longer recognized. And yet, every day I got up. I smiled. I cooked. I folded laundry. Because that's what good wives do. And I had to pretend I still was one. I started asking myself the kinds of questions that don't have clean answers. The kind that wake you up at 2 a.m. and sit beside you in the dark. Was I ever a good wife? Or just a woman waiting to be noticed? I used to think love was about loyalty. About showing up. Cooking the meals. Keeping the house. Wearing the ring. But now I wonder if it was always something else. If deep down I was just hoping to be seen. Not as someone's wife. Not as someone's duty. But as me. And maybe that's where it all started. I never told my husband what happened. Not exactly. Not fully. He never asked. Not directly. Maybe he didn't want to know. Maybe he did, but couldn't bear to hear it. And the friends? They never spoke of it again. Not a word. Not a hint. Just silence. Which somehow made it worse. I kept replaying it in my head. The moment the line blurred. The version of me that crossed it. I don't know if I wanted to be punished or forgiven. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe I just wanted someone to look me in the eye and say, I still see you. And I still believe there's good in you. But no one said that. And I didn't know how to say it to myself. I started looking at my husband differently. Not with resentment, but with this strange ache. He's still distant. Still flawed. But now he looks tired. Like he's carrying something too. And maybe he is. We don't talk about it. We just keep going. Day by day. Like people walking across thin ice, pretending not to hear the cracks beneath them. I've learned something I wish I hadn't. Some betrayals don't come from hate. They come from hunger. The kind you ignore for so long, it stops whispering and starts devouring. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. The mirror still doesn't feel like a safe place. But I look now, because pretending I'm not broken doesn't make me whole. I don't know what comes next. But I know I can't keep hiding from the version of me I became that night. Because she's still here. And she has something to say. Have you ever done something? Not out of desire, but out of emptiness? Not because you wanted to hurt anyone, but because you were tired of feeling nothing at all? That night wasn't about love. It wasn't even about lust. It was about a silence I couldn't carry anymore. A loneliness that had started to feel like part of my skin. I let them in. Not just into my home, but into parts of me I didn't even know were starving. And now, I'm left wondering, was I wrong? Or was I just human? Tell me your truths. Your quiet regrets. Your moments of stillness where you felt the urge to cross a line, just to remember you still existed on the other side. I'll read every word. No judgment. Just honesty. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this story if it touched something you've buried. And subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where silence turns into stories too heavy to carry alone. Tap the bell, because the next story might feel too familiar. Some doors should never be opened. Not because of what's behind them, but because of what they unlock inside of us. There are nights that never really end. They just shift shape. They become guilt. They become memory. They become silence. And sometimes, the deepest betrayal isn't what you did to someone else. It's what you did to yourself when no one was watching. Because you stopped being who you thought you were and became someone else just to feel alive again. So, if you're holding a secret or a version of yourself you're ashamed of, just know you're not alone. Share this story with someone who knows what it's like to feel invisible.